Okay, so with the center lineups thing, I mean, if you did have to take out one of those guys from the starting group, and by the way, as when we have talked to Bobby Webster, and he was on your show, and Masai has also talked about it. Like they clearly value this core group of 5 guys, right? So it's not like they necessarily even feel close to changing the way their starting 5 is. Like those are their 5 most important players. However, if you were to sort of change it up, who would you be taking out to sort of bring in that extra center, which is sort of bringing more of a traditional balance, let's say, to the lineup?
You're right in that they haven't done that a ton, right? Like you look at those 5 guys, the 5 starters. Gary Trent has come off the bench 1 game. That's it for the whole season. Otherwise, they've all started.
Game 1 of the season, which I still don't understand why Goran started that game, but okay.
Otherwise, they've all started every game. So Nick Nurse has talked a lot over the years about wanting that starting lineup flexibility and wanting guys to be comfortable in multiple roles. And this is something I warned about this year too when he was talking about it again, is when it's come down to it, every single season he's had a set starting 5 that he likes to go to. Mm-hmm. And you can make a compelling case for that. Like matchups change and stuff, but it's good to have role certainty for guys. It's good for everyone to know what to expect and what's coming. And, for your prep for a game on Monday to be similar to your prep for your game on Wednesday. Those things have benefits. Having said that, I think a shift of Scottie Barnes to the bench on occasion wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean,
he is usually the first sub that comes out.
He's usually the first sub that comes out. He spent a decent amount of time at Florida State coming off the bench. I think that even if he's in tremendous shape and he's been really, really impressive as a rookie, 36 minutes a game, like he's playing more minutes as a rookie, more minutes than any rookie since Dame. That's how far back you have to go. Wow. It's been like a decade since so I'm not even advocating for cutting his minutes that much. Like maybe it gets it down from 36 to 32. Tyler Hero's leading the league in minutes per game as bench guys with 32. And then there are a couple other guys around like 29, 28. So you could still get him his 30 minutes a game or so. But the combination of experience in that role, fatigue that I think we're seeing, like he's played 2.9 times as many minutes this year as last year.
Yeah.
And we're not even at the All-Star break yet.
I think he played more minutes in the NBA this season than he did all of college, I think, by November.
Yeah. And it's almost triple now. And we had Coach David Thorpe on the Fan Morning Show this morning, and we talked about that a little bit. And he said, like, it's not a rookie wall, it's a wall. Like, this is a grind for everyone. And by this point in the season, guys need, like, the mental break and the physical break. So for a guy like Scottie who's being asked to do a lot and is having a lot come at him from like mental standpoint too, right? Like this is obviously a physical challenge, but the team's being like, hey, guard this guy tonight. Hey, you're guarding center. You're going to play defensively, you're a center and pick and roll tonight. Hey, you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot this game because we're playing against a lesser opponent. It's awesome that they're getting him all those reps. And I think you can make a case that further to that goal is, hey, bring him off the bench once in a while. Like if he's the guy that, if you have to move someone to the bench, have it be him. And then those units are a little bit more his, both in terms of getting him more playmaking reps, getting him more usage, and also kind of creating an identity for those groups where the best version of the bench units have generally included Boucher, Achua, and Banton in some configuration. And you add Scottie Barnes to that, and you see the identity of that group, right? Where they're going to struggle to score. Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So did the bench mob. But those groups, and I think good second units, especially young second units, it's really helpful to have an identity you can lean on. Yep. And that foursome with whether it's Thad, whether it's another starter, whatever, having the, hey, we're going to defend like crazy, use our length, and then we're going to run in transition. And it's going to be a little chaotic, but Scottie Barnes can improvise. Right. And Delano Banton can improvise. Like both of those guys have been better as playmakers this year in improvisational situations. So I don't know. Those are the arguments for it. You could say Gary Trent too, just because, hey, the second unit needs scoring. Pascal, OG, and Fred are not going to the bench. That's pretty much.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
So, I don't think. By the way, I think Gary's played well enough that he's in that group too for me.
Yeah,
he's not moving to the bench.
So and then you're out of options, right? Then you're down to Scottie. Well, and again, it's not a you deserve to go to the bench thing. It's a we want to try something different and see how this looks thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like a like for like substitution.
Yeah,
he's the guy playing center, right? And I think especially when you look at, given how much Pascal has emerged. And Pascal's playing phenomenal, right? All-star level basketball, even though he hasn't been named as an all-star reserve just yet. Adam Silver, you coward. You have Fred obviously already making, the All-Star team itself. You have Gary also emerging as a legitimate third option a lot of the times. Honestly, OG was supposed to be that third option. Sometimes he is, although he's hit a cold patch here as well. When you have that many demands in the starting five, like Scottie is usually the guy who has the least offense and the least shots. And if you look at, like, for example, the way they were trying to beat the Pelicans yesterday, obviously they're asking Fred and Gary to play a lot of pick and roll, right, against that drop defense. You set a good screen. There should be some space for a guy to pull up, whether at the three-point line ideally or maybe even get to the mid-range area. Fred did it effectively. Gary did not, whatever, right? But that's the strategy against the drop-back big. The other way to beat it is like, okay, you set a good screen and then the guy rolls. There's a lot of space for him to short roll into because the bigs dropped all the way back. You hit him with the pocket pass. Scottie's there. And then he's putting up these little push floaters, which we know he can hit, which we know he practices. But essentially what you're asking him to do is like, can you do the Kem Birch role for us in the starting five? And you have Kem Birch at the bench. So I don't know. I mean, to me, I still think that in terms of just like upside, I think probably long term, you probably want to see as many reps as possible with that group. And that's where the challenge of balancing developing and winning come into play. I think maybe in terms of like the ideal situation is you can do similar to like what they did with Serge and Mark. They would kind of change it up. Or I guess actually with Serge and JV.
Yeah, Mark never really came off the bench except for I think his first two games.
He came off the bench for like at least a week or two. I don't know.
Okay.
There's a lot. Anyway, I don't remember that season all that clearly outside of the championship.
Yeah, why would you remember that season? I need that brain space for, Ben Uzo's stat lines and 6 assist games in 1999 and stuff.
Yeah, that's the season known as when Jeremy Lin won a championship for the Toronto Raptors for me. Yeah. So that's how it's filed as.
Man, 10-year anniversary yesterday, eh?
I know. Well, I mean, that was a very conflicted day, just for me personally. But I guess also I did not lose on both fronts. At least only lost on one of those. So the center thing I think is tough. I also think, look, do you also consider cutting one of the centers out of the rotation, at least for the time being?
The issue with that is who is it? Because Kem is owed the most money.
Yeah.
And you have invested the most in him.
Sure. It's not a significant investment, though.
No, it's not, but it's something.
Yeah, okay.
And he's been the worst of the three, at least lately.
Yeah.
I think Boucher has clearly been the best of the three.
Yeah, and he can play 4. The other ones can't play 4.
Yeah, Boucher's numbers actually next to another center are pretty good.
Yeah.
It's he looks like we group him in there because he can play some small ball center and
he was
just like
3 last night.
Yeah, and like he's endemic of like what the issue is with the rotations in general, but yeah, he's not a problem on his own. So it would be tough. I think Kem would be the guy to come out for a little bit. You saw him not in the rotation for a good stretch there with the knee stuff.
Yep.
And it didn't exactly, like, here's the trouble. Maybe it's different with Thad Young, but what they ran into when Kem was out was like that Kem absence felt huge because suddenly they only had 7 guys.
Sure, yeah.
So to take one of your top 9 and be like, we're going to shelf him because it's too hard to bring 3 bigs off the bench, 4 if you include that as a big and not kind of the wing that he's going to have to play on this team.
He's a big man.
I know, but he's not going to be deployed like that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you can afford to really cut one of your top 9 guys from the rotation for positional balance when you don't have another guy to step. Like, you just don't trust that many guys if you're Nick Nurse.